Testing, testing, let's get it centered. Alright, hello. I was just in the mood to do a journal flip through. I typically do this, well, relatively often, but I do like to go back and look at a journal that I had at this time last year. I think it's a good way for me to kind of keep perspective about everything and remember, you know, how things have changed in the last year, how I've changed. And I feel like it's always really helpful to look back on things. So this is the journal that I had last summer. So summer is my favorite season. And this is a really crazy summer. I had what was basically my dream job. That was temporary, but a dream job. My sister got married, and I was in a long distance relationship. So there was a lot going on there, and I had a lot of feelings. So this guy's pretty thick. But I remember really, really loving this journal and getting an awful lot out of it. So on the front here, I've got these two ladies. I don't remember where I got them. They're both the same. I made them into stickers with a sticker maker I have, and I had cut them out of a magazine somewhere. I got some paint on the front, but that's okay. So here's in the front. It's a Piccadilly, pretty decent, very inexpensive, and this journal took me from June to October, so a relatively long amount of time for me, but I think it's because the pages in this are pretty thin, so I had quite a few of them to go through. So I started off with the calendar here, and I wrote down everything that I did every day. That is always enjoyable for me to look back on, remember where I was at what time. I should probably start doing that again, but we'll see. So I'm really into collage. That's my big thing. There we go. That says, these pages are thin as shit, but this is the sacrifice I make to save $15, I suppose. So these are significantly more inexpensive than the Moleskines, these Piccadillys. And the paper is pretty thin, but Moleskine paper is pretty thin these days anyway. So here we go. I have a list of things to bring back to Cleveland with me. I live in Cleveland, but I was spending the summer in Columbus with my parents. I'm just pretty writing heavy. I tried to integrate to-do lists into here for a while, but it didn't really work out, so I gave up on that after a little bit. These are things that I really enjoy doing. So at the time, I was really in between these three options, which was to do, you know, a master's program, get a PhD, or go to law school. Those were like the three things that I was struggling between, so I did a pros and cons list of each of them. I do this sort of thing a lot, and I find it really helpful. I did end up choosing one of these, and it was helpful even to look back on to try and, you know, having made my decision now and going with one of these, I can remember what my pros and cons were a year ago. So I always find that really helpful. The stuff that I use for my collages comes out of, a lot of it is from Entertainment Weekly. A lot of it is from, I obviously gave up on this. I saw more than one new movie in June, I think, but lost interest apparently. I tend to put stuff like this now in either my bullet journal or in a note on my phone and then make it a complete spread at the end of the month instead of trying to keep things going as I go. But I use Entertainment Weekly. I use things I get for free at the library. This is something that I got out of, like, I think an Andrew Wyeth book that I cut out. So just that sort of thing. Again, this sort of stuff is in my bullet journal now. I tried to do the artist way for like 2 days. I couldn't get into it. I like journaling throughout the day, and I obviously like looking back on things. So, you know, doing morning pages and then never looking at them again never really works for me. So I had a really good summer, I think, this past summer, but it was really bizarre because I had a lot of kind of like depressive episodes. So this is kind of one where I was in a bit of a slump that I was having a hard time getting out of for a couple of days. So this is my nice blue cloud, what I'm feeling, how my body feels today on Monday. So I get that Oh, this is something that I really liked, that I ended up coming back to a lot after I finished this journal. So I did like an art spray thing to kind of set it apart from the rest of it, and then I took catalog of what my dream life looks like within the year. So not like forecasting into the future, but more just right now, what was as attainable as possible. So I had like a goal weight that I wanted to get down to. Um, Keep my hobbies alive and well, which is important. Time on campus is spent working at a job, at the gym, in a fitness class, or with people. Pursue some mentor relationships, that sort of stuff. So that was something that a lot of these did end up happening in some regard, at least, to some extent. So I think that this was a really good like manifestation exercise. I should probably do that again. I don't remember what this is a quote from, unfortunately, but I think it's good. This is like my least favorite spread in this notebook, if I remember them all correctly. I hate how it looks, but overall, I really kind of liked the flow of this notebook a lot. I think it's pretty accurate to how I was feeling, and it was just a weird kind of summer of a lot of waiting and then high activity and then waiting and then high activity. So I would like have to wait for this job to start, and then so like this is from Entertainment Weekly, this is from an arts magazine, and then this is from a handout that I got in an art exhibit. So just that kind of stuff is where I get everything from. But I would have to wait for camp to start, and then would have like weeks off from camp and then go back to camp, and then have a similar sort of situation of like, you know, a lot of downtime, and then getting ready for my sister's wedding, and then having a lot of downtime, and all of that kind of stuff. So it was a weird kind of ebb and flow of how often I even had time to journal, and then if that was what I kind of wanted to do with my free time. I remember I was at this job and I had a good amount of downtime because it was like writing based. So I would have a lot of silent time to myself where a lot of the other people would read, and I would kind of journal while I was at work, and that worked really well for me. Oh, this is something I still do. I do like monthly playlists. I do them more regularly now. Back in the day, I really only did it once or twice, but these are super, super fun to look back on to see which songs kind of stuck around and became classics for me, and which ones I kind of let go at the end of this month. But this was the month that the new Panic at the Disco album came out, and so that sort of stuff is enjoyable. This one I did sideways for some reason. I don't think I liked it, which is why I didn't do it again. Preparing myself for sadness. So yeah, I was dealing with the fact that I knew that my sister was going to be moving away, and that was something I was bummed about, and just kind of dealing with being super happy and super sad at the same time. And I feel like this quote from Matisse embodies that pretty well. I always really like doing it too, to see even the day where I was a year ago. So today is July 2nd. So this is Saturday, June 30th. So it's the last day of June. And I really enjoy kind of reading back on where exactly I was exactly a year ago to see if things were a lot better or a lot worse or pretty much the same. So I don't have an entry from June 2nd, but I have one from July 2nd, but I do have one from the 1st and from the 3rd. So this is another spread that I hated. Somebody like gifted my sister a subscription to Teen Vogue for some reason. Or no, I think it was 17 magazine. And she's like 25 years old. She obviously didn't want it, and she didn't know who gave it to her, so she just gave them all to me. And I tried to cut them up into something semi-usable. See, like this is hysterical. I would use this for something a lot more ironic now, but at the time I just didn't really know what to do with them, so I just sort of went at it, and it's a bit of a mess, but it's okay. I also did a lot where I would journal like on top of black, which annoys me because I can't really read it, but maybe I was writing something I knew that I wouldn't want to read again. I don't know. Surprise, surprise, I'm considering law school again, so I also like this. A caring relationship? Hopeless. It's very optimistic of me. So just a lot of really heavy, pretty heavy writing. And again, these pages are really thin, so I could fit a lot of this on here. I was reading Call Me By Your Name, the book, which I would definitely recommend to read in summer if you're planning to read it at any point, because it was just a very, very immersive experience. Oh, and this was the job I had. I was working at a summer camp, and so I couldn't like have these ladies on the front, so I cut out this picture of Georgia O'Keeffe and I had her taped to the front instead, but you can see where like the stickers had tried to rub their way through. It was really bizarre. But so I put her in here when I was done to thank her for her service. I guess I can read something. It says, increasingly, I feel unsure of what to say when I open my journal. Not so much in a repressed way, but in a way that I feel very much that I am floating on my back in a spring water pool and that I haven't seen much but the clouds for several days. I obviously want to speak of the clouds, what they look like, and the feeling of them, but it feels a little like a waste of time since I'd rather spend that time looking at the clouds before they go. Does that make sense? I'm worried for mom's surgery tomorrow. That's like a pretty standard way for me to write, is like something poetic and then going back. This is a want, will, won't list of more career options that I was going over. This is something I got from like Sexplanations about what you're cool with in bed, which you should also do, but I find that I do these a lot for any kind of decisions I'm making where I have an awful lot of options, where things you really want, things that you will put up with, and things that you absolutely won't deal with. So like I wasn't willing to take a job where I would constantly be on call or be forced to constantly relocate or work straight through for the entire day with like no lunch, because that's the kind of job that a lot of people I know have, and I just know that it doesn't suit me super well. This is something that a kid at camp like handed me a thing she drew of a bunch of hearts, and I just cut them all out and put them on here. I also was volunteering at the library during this time, my local library, and they knew that I really liked collage, so they would give me old books that they were going to throw away. So I have like botanical books and that sort of thing. This is my July playlist. This is interesting too. It's like the last minute edition one here is the only one that I still really listen to super frequently. I also really like lists, just like things I really want to do. Go somewhere new in the US by myself before I'm 25, go overseas for an extended period of time, live somewhere I really love, be in a community theater play or musical. That's not something I would pick these days. Go camping, I did that. Shave my head, still working on it. Get sexy photos. Take an extended period of isolation in nature, figure out what I want to do, have my art displayed. Also did that this year. Be a mom and live somewhere without winter. So I did 2 of those this year. I had my art displays and I went camping several times actually. Got really into camping. So also good to do, you know, certain things on a list that you don't think will happen with any sort of, like, you don't think you'll be able to accomplish any of these within a year, and then it's just random ones that you kind of do on accident, but sort of mini manifesting, which is good. Embarrassed. That's cute. but here we go. This is, so I was working at this summer camp, I was volunteering at the library, and I was also a gardener, kind of freelance, so this is a drawing that I did like of the garden where I was working when I needed a break for a little bit. So that's nice. I've been in a weird mood recently. I think my trip made me realize just how close summer is to ending and that I have very mixed feelings about it. Very true. Weakness is not a bad thing, I've decided. In both political science and philosophy, people are always, whether or not they acknowledge it, looking to the animal kingdom to determine what is natural, or sometimes even worse, what is fair. And that's dumb as shit, I think. We abandoned nature a long time ago. We can't be expected to apply caveman logic and morals to the modern world. Yeah, that is something that's really common in political science. It's kind of like a Nietzsche thing. Like, the strong prey on the weak in nature, so what's the problem? And that was something that was bizarrely hard for me to unlearn, but also something that always made me feel really out of place as like a woman in that major. That was something that I always just kind of had to pretend to go along with, and I didn't really like. Hope for the future. This is, I think, when I started really getting into the idea of getting a house. I'm still very far away from that, but that's also something that I really, really would love to do at some point. This is another one from that Andrew Waith book. It was like a bunch of female nudes. I still have a bunch of those to use up, actually. But I also put like ads in here and just dumb stuff. I have a bunch of these definitions too that came from a PFLAG pamphlet that my mom gave me when she went to a meeting, that I just cut up and used for a bunch of collage. And this is like from a deodorant ad combined with something from like a musician's flyer that he gave me to tell me to come to his show, and I did not go. This is the day of, yeah, this is all me talking about my sister's wedding, I think, because this was the day of. It says, I'm absolutely exhausted, but I just wanted to write a little. Today was great. I'm so happy for her, and everything was wonderful. I need to go to bed or I'll die, but I'm very happy, and that was at 9:45. And I'm a night owl, so that's pretty funny that was how tired I was. I was going to bed at 9:30. So this kind of stuff is from Entertainment Weekly, just like their ads. Oh, this is from when I went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I went to their gay bookstore. This was my receipt from that. They're closed now, which is super sad, but it's a really beautiful experience at the time. This was when I was in the midst of moving back up to Cleveland and kind of grappling with living alone. And not being long distance anymore, which was something that was like a bigger adjustment than I kind of realized, that I had gotten really used to long distance, so. I also switched to a much thicker pen here. And I started really cramming my letters together for whatever reason. I think it was like a stress thing. I don't know. This was also kind of the beginning of like a real depressive spiral. I have some that go for a couple days and then some that go for several weeks. So this was the beginning of one that went for several weeks. So sometimes I feel like I feel sad all the time simply because I don't know how to feel any other way. Like, along the way, it's just become my default setting, and I didn't even notice. So, you know. It sounds weird to say, but I think journaling is one of my favorite things about myself, if that makes any sense. I feel a little glum not having plans tonight, but I'm trying to go easy on myself, so. Just, you know, struggling with personal identity, having sort of made a career decision and realizing that my career wasn't really going to be my identity. This is from an event I went to for Cordray. We lost. Yeah, and so if you ever go to an art museum and they just have like little handouts, I use those too. So this is just like the title of a painting, or not a painting, it was a sculpture. And I put those in here too. These like fact/fictions, new/old that you've seen in here, those were also all, I think that was from the Comme des Garçons exhibit that was at the Met that I had been to like the year before. And I just cut up the flyer and used all of those for collages. And you can see that my handwriting also really changes depending on how I'm feeling. I think this is when I was starting to feel a little bit better. And so I loosened up a little bit and wasn't so rigid. This was also, this was my first day at my new job. That went super, super well. So that also really helped me bring out of sort of the blueness that I was feeling. So I have like 2 collage boxes of stuff that I use for my journal. So I'll have one box of bigger stuff like this and then another box of smaller things. And then I tend to, when I'm stuck on what to do, I just pick one out of both boxes and just like slap them together and see how that goes. So like this is like a picture of Lady Gaga that I just cut the head off of because I thought it would look cooler. So that's just sort of how it goes for me. And feeling a little better. I'm doing a lot of like lighter colors and that sort of thing, which always sort of reveals to me that I'm feeling, I'm a very obvious person, like it's not very surprising. You can kind of just open my notebook and look at the gradients of the of the collages that I'm doing and it'll kind of explain itself, I guess. I don't know. Oh, and this is when I was going camping for the first time, which I was super, super excited about. If I'm ever going out of town, I'll like pre-collage so that I have room to go write as much as I want, which is good for me. I also never print stuff out for my journals. So this is from like a condom ad, and then I put it with like one of the nudes, that sort of thing. But yeah, I never print things out. I really like the kind of organic nature of finding things and making them work for you. I think these are some of my last pages. Yep. I always like to look at, I always tend to end my journal super intentionally. And I think here I was talking about, there's a David Foster Wallace lecture that he gave about how life is kind of 49% pleasure and 51% pain, and you just have to kind of learn to appreciate the 49% while living through the 51%, which is something that was really monumental for me to learn. I also ended this the day before my birthday. Yeah, because my birthday is the 27th. So I ended this before my birthday, so I was also having a lot of thoughts about that. So am I in love? Undetermined and ultimately unimportant. All that matters is that a bitch is trying to do better, whether people support her or not. 49% ain't so bad. So that's where I left off. Oh, this is like a rant I had, because I was having a lot of feelings about polyamory for whatever reason. So I wrote that in my bullet journal and then cut it out and taped it in the back of here. This is an anagram somebody made me of my name, one of the kids from camp. And then back here I have, oh, these are all this is the plan. This is a show plan for a show I was doing, or stage managing, I guess. And then these are all letters that she wrote to me when we were in a long distance relationship. We're still together now, and I wish nowadays I would like put these in the journal kind of as they go, because I really don't remember what orders these go in. But they're still really like beautiful to look back on. And it kind of is nice too because I only have one side of them. So I don't really remember what she was replying to, but that makes it kind of more interesting. I have my Shape of Water ticket for whatever reason. Again, I would put that in there now. I don't know why I didn't. But just really nice stuff that I love to have. And this was the thank you card my sister sent me for being her maid of honor. You're a cool cat, thanks for being you. Remember, wine is $2.89 at Aldi's. So there you go. Again, this journal took me about like 6 months, I think. But I really, really liked it. It was a really important one for me. Very kind of exciting and beautiful and very up and down summer. And then I've got this Lisa Frank sticker on the back, but there we go. I hope that was somewhat enjoyable to watch. Let me know if you liked it. I have about 20 journals that I could go through at any point. So if you really liked it, let me know, and thank you so much.